right, safe.
Right.
3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cross Commission Sunday night Power Hour Selection Sunday live show. We've got, I think, more viewers to start than we've ever had on one of these things. So thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us at the, for whatever reason we do these things at 9 o'clock every year. So one of these years we'll get to like 7, 6. Yeah.
Jake, the market needed something to, there's nothing on HBO on Sundays.
They're just, this is what we got now. So, hit like, subscribe, if you could. Apparently that does good things, I hear. We're new to all this. I'm manning the controls tonight. I've got my producer cap on. So let's hope for no tech difficulties, anything like that. It should be pretty good. Safe. We got 30 minutes. Brian just gave us the thumbs up. We're all good. Lovely. Beautiful. Maybe if Ryan gets a minute, he can hop in here, complain about Syracuse's seed, or praise it. Who knows? Safe. We got 29 minutes. The women's selection show is about to begin. We'll talk about that for a little bit. Where do you want to start, Safe?
Yeah, Jake, kind of where we started on. Got to hand it to the Michigan Wolverines.
Yes, you do.
2 years in a row, just absolute backs to the wall and just respond with it. Last year, doubling up Maryland, I thought was, shocking a little bit, but really impressive. And then this year, just an absolute dismount. When I woke up, I had to double take again when I saw the score from last night. I was just like, man, wow.
It did have a feeling of, and you can maybe hope for Penn State's case it doesn't come back to haunt them. Though granted they were down big, but it had the feeling the second half the Penn State didn't really come out. They were like, all right, we're good. And this is something to, I guess, contemplate, talk about. Is a lot of people kind of mention, and it's maybe not critique in some cases of just the huge motivational gap between a team like Michigan that's playing for its life versus teams like Maryland or Hopkins or Penn State, or like Princeton in the Ivy League tournament, that knows they're in the field, and just kind of what the sort of disparity that is. But man, I've seen a lot of Big Ten tournaments, and before this sort of quarterfinal, everyone in the pool kind of thing they've done, it was the top two teams every year. It's this. What Michigan's done is really unprecedented in terms of the Big Ten tournament for sure. Same with Princeton and the Ivy, not as much. The Ivy League tournament has kind of lended itself to being upset, kind of, I don't know, heavy's the right word, but definitely, been upsets in the Ivy League tournament in the past. But yeah, Michigan, the Big Ten, what they've done is really astounding. It does kind of make you ask yourself why they can't replicate it to a degree, in the regular season, but what they have done in the Northwestern is the number one seed, as expected in the women's bracket. But yeah, what they've done is pretty crazy, and they come in really hot, and I definitely wouldn't want to see them in my, in the first round. It seems like they'll probably get Denver, but I definitely wouldn't want to see them the way they're playing. Again, same as last year.
Exactly. It's almost like a carbon copy of last year. Even with the winning at Ohio State, aspect of it. But just really impressed with what Conway's able to do for now 2 straight years there. You kind of noted at the beginning of the year, teams don't make quarterfinals and are kind of one and doneers.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of maybe just shows that there's a lot of substance that the Wolverines and that kind of just really dismantling both Hopkins after the big start from them, and then if you think about it, outside of the Hopkins 6-1 start,
what is their goal differential after getting down 6-1?
Yeah, it's just that's how they need to. It's like those smelling salts. That's what they need to wake up.
They beat Penn State.
We're down
They beat
5.
Penn.
Let's
I
go.
looked it up. Their goal differential in this tournament the last 2 years is total is plus 36. So they're winning by an average of 6 goals a game.
Yeah, it was like it's like not really. I don't understand how they're doing it, but they're doing it.
Like,
That's it.
there is the motive, like the gap. You know, again, like they're playing for their life. They know they lose. There's no tomorrow, and everyone that kind of played there is that, but this doesn't happen in every tournament. You know, like this. Like it's what they're doing is unique. Mark said it's at 25-5. I mean, that's nuts, dude.
When you mentioned that, like on Friday when we pod, I have to watch it. Like, I almost reminded me of that line in Batman Begins with, rest in peace, Tom Wilkinson.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking to like Bruce Wayne. He's like, "You never tasted desperate." That's how I feel like Michigan's just like, I don't know what it's like. Being 6 in the Big Ten and just having to fight. But I think like they're kind of just used to it, and maybe that just their style. But like I was most impressed again. I kind of harped on it on Friday. Just like they just bullied Hopkins. Like they just beat them up. Like after the first quarter, like first run that Hopkins had, like it just felt like they just couldn't do anything, and just physically just beat them up. Kind of seems to do the same thing that Penn State yesterday. Just totally like a team that just coming in that we were thinking that potentially on par to the 2019 team if they had a little bit better face off. But that's how I just figured just start there. Just shout out.
Yeah, we gotta stop making bold proclamations on these watchathons.
No, we gotta do more.
We gotta
just keep
double
Townsend,
down.
I was like, that leads right into the Tigers. We kind of thought, or like maybe this thing bounce back here for Nadlin. I mean, like you woke up with a CAA crown, like it must feel great. Yeah, like they're back. The war is back.
Towson, yes, Towson is back. Yeah, when I saw safe tweet out from the main account, the captain tweet. Oh man, it took me back.
What's it like 3-4 years? Like this is really good. A good captain.
5 years since they made an NCAA tournament appearance. I mean,
like
it's been we didn't know what COVID was the last time they were in the tournament. I was there as a student the last time they were, and look, if they can get an upset, they got to. A lot of teams go into this tournament with the view of this is the last game we've played at home. Towson, there is that kind of on the horizon, that like if you can win, you ain't guaranteed this is the last game they've played at Johnny Unitas this year. Obviously, it'll be a very tough task. I think they're probably going to go to Hopkins. I might be there for that. We'll see. In Homewood. Definitely if, we can kind of talk about like the, Evan asked in the chat, Penn State definitely threw that game. I mean, I don't think they, not like intentionally, but like, it was obvious, like Michigan punched them in the face and then they were like, do I really want to punch back? I don't know. I don't know that they were really in the business of, trying to, again, Michigan was just, they're desperate, man. And desperation is a big thing at this time of year, for sure. Thank you guys. Anything in chat? If you're in here, want to ask us questions, throw them in the chat. We'll talk to them. We got 20 minutes here. So any questions, comments you got, throw them at us. We'll get to them right as they come in. Fantastic for Towson. The other Tigers, Princeton, they did it again as well. I know Michigan's kind of burnishing this resume certainly as the chaos agent of May, and that's for sure earned. Princeton's not far behind them. And they kind of really comprehensively went through similarly the Ivy tournament. Yale was kind of in it with them for a moment there, but after really the second half, they led the whole way through that. And I think they led the whole way wire to wire today against Penn. So, this is throwing out there for, the analytics, the cross-reference statistics. Throughout the entire year in the Ivy, they were the most and then Penn as well, they were the most well-rounded team. Defensively, they ranked pretty highly. I don't know if I ever felt their defense was as good as maybe some of the rankings sometimes, but I definitely, like Cornell and Yale were the two teams who, they scored a lot of goals, but the defense was not there. and I don't know if that necessarily manifested itself in either of the games per se, but Princeton did look at times for the year like the most complete team in the Ivy. It was just a matter of could they ever actually, the youth could, and you saw that in the Cornell game for sure, where the youth bit them in that one,
Yeah.
and then you saw it, I think, for certainly in the, David Griffith threw out how impressive was Princeton. Yeah, absolutely. And then in the Brown game, where we thought, they were, they were cooked as an at-large. The Brown game did kind of take any at-large case, but they just said, yeah, whatever. And come back from that to beat Yale last weekend. They really thumped them. Beat them again and beat Penn today. And Princeton, 3 straight NCAA tournaments for the first time in 20 years.
Yeah.
And looks, maybe they'll get a rematch with Maryland in the first round. That'd be a very compelling game. But once again, just a fantastic coaching job at Matt Madeline. Last year with all the injuries they got in, this year losing, they were the young team in the Ivy in a league that definitely had some experience. And they're back in once again to the NCAA tournament. It's a huge feather in the cap for that program. And they're building that thing, man. Like they're just making tournaments year after year, and they got a whole bunch of young talent on that team. It's a promising future for sure in Princeton.
They look so crisp. I mean, like there's like watching them on TV and live, like it just I've seen them progress and getting better. As most teams do, but like against Penn, I mean, it's pretty good defense of like relative to the Ivy League, but I just passing, like I just felt like they're like to complete their defense, like when he can not dominant at all, but more than competent. Like they have a really, I think it's pretty strong goalie. One of the and in defense in general, like I think short stick defenseman, they get the ball over quickly. They got the forgive me, forget his name right now, but wide receiver from the football team. I think it's Jackson's first name. That's the last one, but it's all like just clean clears of what we were talking about as a national epidemic this year. Like I don't feel too much. Look, I feel confident when I see Princeton have the ball, like get it into the offensive end and get what they want. Like I don't know if you're a Princeton Tiger fan, got to feel kind of good. Maybe a little bit of a dark horse, Elite Eight, maybe even a Final Four run out of this team that really wasn't supposed to make that happen this year. Some people made some bold predictions earlier in the year, Jake, about the Tigers.
No, they're in that. We can talk about this. I think there is a feeling that you much rather be in the bottom half of the bracket. You don't want to be in Notre Dame's quarterfinal for sure. Because after Notre Dame, and also I just want to make sure David again made a point, like all the Princeton grad transfers made the tournament, which does make you wonder, like, man, imagine if all those guys got to play for Princeton.
Well, just think people can listen to our last part where we talked about Madeline, but I just seen him lose a ton of talent and make it happen again. It starts again with I think the 2020 season, losing Towers, losing 2 seasons, coming back, getting to the Final Four, losing those teams, making the tournament last year, losing those guys. All of them go to Syracuse,
the guys who went to Michigan.
The third year.
I mean,
this 3 years in a row. This is not a fluke what he's been building up there.
No, yeah, it's certainly. I mean, they would have been, and that's I think what kind of that's what makes it for them, exciting for next year is well, they don't. I mean, they're going to lose guys again. They'll probably lose. Gian Fraccaro's the main one. I think there's a couple more, but he's the big piece. But it's when this kind of sort of peters out, this kind of the Ivy grad transfers. There's one more year of it, but it's not anywhere near significant to the degree it's been the last couple of years. This is certainly kind of sees when they got that full complement of players once again.
I was not struck, but I was I never saw him angry about the Princeton's decision. I was thinking in his head, I was man, if I was doing all that talent, it'd be a little bit sore. And I was maybe now it's just it makes much more sense. He's we actually need to make room for all these people that are coming.
Well, I think it is. That's a good point, and we're kind of getting off track. But again, we got time. how many teams have we seen the last couple of years have to? And look, I do think it's hurt the Ivy. I mean, like they've lost a lot of key players that have gone to these ACC teams for the most part, and Big Ten teams as well. And they're going to get probably one bid in the league, one bid this year. And I think they're probably a two bid. It's probably one more would have been the more sort of like representative. But it has hurt them, But overall, I do think maybe for like long term, is a lot of these teams, we've seen it with these teams, have to like juggle the incoming guys and fifth years who maybe want an extra year, and the younger guys you have. Like it's a challenge. It's been a challenge for Maryland, who lost guys to the transfer portal when they were young. Who you look now and you're like, man, I bet they'd probably like to have those guys on the team. But Maryland brought in guys like Donville and Kahn and everything. It's like, look, they got an undefeated season out of it. Like you take the trade every time. But Princeton, in this case, like they haven't had to really grapple with that because it's just like, all right, we can't keep you. You're gonna go, and we're gonna bring the next guys in.
Yeah.
And so it does make kind of roster management in that regard a lot easier, I would say. And so yeah, that's been pretty interesting to follow. So I guess we can kind of get in. We kind of thrown around in the chat, kind of who these teams are going to get. Can maybe see if I can pull up here the glass kind of bracket projections. I think the seeds are everyone's largely in agreement. I think Notre Dame at the 1 seems. I mean, that's obvious. I think there was a stat I saw that they might have the most top 5 RPI top 5 wins of any team ever. They got 5, which is pretty impressive. And that was kind of what we're getting to about like wanting to be in the bottom half of the bracket. Like after Notre Dame, is there a team in this tournament you really trust?
I mean, Duke went from 1 and then lost that all today. So absolutely, we were literally like Friday night. We're like, this team for sure, but that didn't show up today.
Yeah, you had Naso. Naso was out, injured. Syracuse, the 3 seed in the women's tournament. Maryland is the 4. I believe Boston College is the 2. So I'm just kind of giving evidence of that. Yeah. Naso was out for Duke. And I think it's fair to like, you could say like the impact that had. Notre Dame dominated faceoffs, but I mean that's kind of a concern going forward for Duke. Is what's his kind of status? But yeah, you got Duke. You got who looks like they're going to get the 2 seed. Sort of shaky 2 seed. I mean, we have seen 2 seeds be at times apt for an upset. It looks like they're probably going to get Utah, which I think is a pretty good matchup for them. Then you get into kind of Syracuse, Hopkins, 3 or 4. Depending on where they go, I think it's going to be whoever the 3 seed plays is going to get Lehigh, and whoever the 4 seed is going to get Towson. It would probably be easier just send Towson to Hopkins. And of course, Syracuse did beat Hopkins, so you can kind of square that away. Virginia might get the 5, and they haven't won a game in a month.
A month, yeah.
Like the Cavs are coming in wounded, and they could. This is where you kind of get into, there have been, the tournament the last 5-6 years, as we mentioned this before, has really been an upset sort of immune. Like 3 of the last 4 tournaments, the top 5 seeds have made it to the Final Four. There was 2022, which was the outlier year in which Georgetown obviously got the big upset, and then I think Penn is the 3 seed, lost to Rutgers in the quarterfinals. But there's only really been like one. That Georgetown Delaware game is like the only upset we've really had in the last 6 or 7 years from these kind of top 5. Maryland last year too, from the top 5 seeds. So you're really kind of looking at. I mean, it just hasn't happened. But I think this year some of these matchups feel like they could very much potentially throw something out there. I mean, you got Hopkins, Towson. Hopkins did dominate Towson in the first game they played. I think Towson is a lot better though. Towson's defense played great this weekend. I mean, Delaware was turning the ball over. I mean, it was a hot potato for them in that they couldn't clear it all in that CAA championship. Virginia at the 5 playing St. Joe's. I mean, talk about two teams just in polar opposite directions. St. Joe's hasn't lost a game since February, and they're coming in with a lot of confidence. They ran away from Richmond in the fourth quarter of that game. Syracuse Lehigh, I think that one, if that's it, or whoever plays Lehigh against Hopkins, I think that feels maybe, a better matchup. But again, like these are teams that like when they struggle, they can leave the door open. We'll see. Denver, Michigan, that could be a 7 or a 6 matchup. We saw Michigan do it last year. Yeah, everything once you get past, I think Duke's probably got a good matchup. Against Utah, even if they're been up and down, but once you get past that, yeah, it does feel like there is a real chance of some potential upsets in here. And I also look if there's, I wouldn't be shocked if there isn't, but these teams feel much more vulnerable than years past, where like 2021, you had those, it was like the 3 ACCs, Maryland and Georgetown, were like clear the top 5. Last year, the 3 ACCs never really felt like they were in danger. Like I think last year, 7 of the 8 seeds won, or 6 of the 8. So yeah, I think it does feel like there's a chance for some upsets potentially here, or at least maybe some close calls.
And if it goes chalk, the way that you just kind of break it, they could be like a really epic Elite 8 round. You're getting all of a sudden Hopkins, Virginia, Syracuse, Maryland. Notre Dame, Georgetown rematch on Hofstra would be, I think, just delicious for everybody involved. Duke, Denver, also, if that could be at Hofstra, like that would be, all the Long Island folks, have to choose between, a Tyranny, Legacy School or Danowski. I think, in the year of the box office, that would just be like just an absolute coup de grace if we had that as an Elite 8.
Mark, in his bracket, I know Mark Hart at Fieldy Sick on Twitter, he said he didn't put like a bunch of thought into it, but his Towson quarterfinal was potentially the seeds would be Cuse, Maryland, and Hopkins, Virginia. Which you might need to like pull people back from the the box office for that one.
It would be huge. Like that would be
that's the big 4 right there.
Right in your backyard, Jake.
Oh man, I'll be there.
You definitely gotta get the press. Get the press pass.
You're gonna have to that, or otherwise you gotta run to the box office as quick as I can. The whole day. Yeah, that would be something. It'd be fitting. Yeah, there are definitely some quarterfinal. If there isn't, there are some quarterfinal matchups that are really kind of enticing. A Virginia Hopkins rematch potentially. Patrick Stevens' bracket has Maryland Duke. In Towson, Patrick Stevens has Virginia Hopkins, Maryland Duke. That would also be box office.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be great. Fantastic.
Hempstead, he has Notre Dame, Penn State, Syracuse, Denver, and he has Princeton going to Penn State rematch potentially last year's first round game. Georgetown going to Maryland. So, it would be. That'd be something. Either way, so there's definitely potential for some. And Mark's, he's got. You mentioned the Notre Dame, Georgetown, Duke, Denver. I mean, those are as you mentioned, safe. Those are box office kind of stuff. So the potential, it could be for some great crowds and great environments, and some close games. But I do think you want to be in that bottom half. I feel like if you're you don't want to play. I mean, whoever's got play Notre Dame, look, you don't want to be out. So you take you're in a quarterfinal. You're one shot away from a Final Four. But that's tough. I think Hopkins' best lacrosse they've shown is maybe the second best we've seen this year. So that Hopkins Virginia quarterfinal, if it happens, could be pretty big. But then you got after that, Syracuse and Denver. If that's the 3-6, that's two teams with not a lot of NCAA tournament experience on their rosters. Think about it. Denver hasn't been. Both teams haven't been in the tournament since 2021. I mean, Syracuse does have the Princeton guys who are kind of bringing in a good good bit, but not as much as you used to from a Syracuse or Denver team. Like Denver, Michigan, if that happens, Michigan's got more NCAA tournament experience on the roster than Denver. As insane of a statement as that would have been like 2 years ago. But and then if you're a Maryland or Georgetown or Princeton, whoever's in that matchup, the two. I don't know if you're necessarily against Duke. You don't know what you're going to get. Obviously, the best of Duke, I think, would beat any of those teams in there. But we've seen Duke when they've kind of come in on this sort of, I think back to some of their prior quarterfinal games, Loyola a couple years ago, the Notre Dame one in 2019. They've played some tight ones. Last year, they were dominant, but last year's Duke was a consistent team all year long. So, yeah, I think there is kind of feeling you maybe want to be in the bottom half of the bracket rather than the top. But, again, once you get past Notre Dame, I don't think there's... It does have the feeling of a potentially wide-open tournament, which, now that we say this, watch it be like 1 through 4 in the Final Four.
So we got 3 minutes. Jake, what's your if you had to pick a dark horse of the ones we think right now? We'll use like Mark's final sheet. Dark horse Final Four team. Who are you looking at?
How low do we got to go for dark horse?
Sub 5.
Sub 5. I think Princeton's got a potential for a good bracket if they could get in if they get in that 8 line. That's my thing. It's like if you ask me of all these teams who I kind of feel like has the most sub 5, I'd probably say even after I know yesterday was a brutal, but I still would maybe pick Penn State. But having to go against Notre Dame, like that, if they're in that spot, which it feels likely they're going to be in that spot, either at home or on the road, that would be pretty tough.
Yeah.
Princeton, I think, they could get Maryland in the first round, which I think is a winnable game, and they could get Duke in the second. Duke did blow them out the first time. But, Princeton, they're just playing, kind of a young team, maybe, doesn't really know, like they're not supposed to be there.
Exactly. Yeah.
McMeekin's playing a lot better on faceoffs. This is another thing you can look at in that potential Princeton, Maryland, Duke is we've seen it young goalies in the tournament. Jameson's been phenomenal for Duke all year, but he is a young goalie in the tournament for the first time, and that can go a lot of different ways. Like Anderson Moore for Georgetown, we saw that was like up and down in this Big East tournament. I go back to last year with Maryland, like Brian Ruppel, who was really good for them, but in the tournament, just it didn't have it. Whereas if it's Maryland or Princeton, you got Gian Fraccaro in goal or McNaney, kind of that experience. So I think Princeton's pick. You can never count out Maryland. I'm not saying I feel it, but I've seen Tillman, take teams that look like they're finished walking into the tournament, and then before you know it, they're back in the Final Four. So, and I do. If you ask me as a Maryland fan, I don't mind getting Duke in the 2 seed. I don't hate that if they can get past Princeton. I don't mind playing Princeton either. I'm not saying it's I'm not saying I feel great about any matchup they got, but I don't mind their potential draw if it pans out that way. So I would say Penn State I think is the best team, but I don't like their path, and then maybe that whoever wins that Princeton Maryland game.
I'm with you with the Tigers, but this Michigan team, if they again
if it's Michigan Cuse in the potential quarterfinal, that could be a barn burner. And again, you talk about like NCAA tournament experience for Michigan. That could be something interesting.
Yeah, definitely going to play into the like benefit. Like and this, just kind of playing with house money. Last year I think they were like obviously surprised to get in. Not surprised, but like it was unexpected. And then they, kind of met their match with a strong Duke team, Elite Eight. Now they, know how that goes, and I don't know if they're Mark has them like playing, traveling to Denver.
I like that
I
matchup for
think,
him.
I think so too. Like, I mean, I didn't think Denver looking too great offensively last couple of weeks, and now you have a team in Michigan that can, put the ball in the net and has a pretty good face-off. And right now, their defense seems to be pretty locked in. Like, that's not a combination that I want to be facing in the first round at home. So, but that's the end of the women's broadcast.
They got the dog. Couple dogs looks like.
There you go.
Women's bracket, the top 8 seeds. Northwestern is the 1 seed. Boston College is the 2. Syracuse is the 3. Maryland is the 4. Virginia is the 5. Yale is the 6. I think this is Yale's first NCAA that just saw first NCAA tournament appearance since 2017. Notre Dame is the 7, and the 8th seed is Penn. So Penn, did get their name called tonight. We'll see if it happens again. But those are your 8 seeds in the women's bracket. Remember the women's tournament, the top 2 seeds get opening round buys. The top 3 seeds, and then everyone from there on down plays a first round game that'll start next weekend. Start Friday night. Good, good start to the tournament. Tournament festivities early. All right, looks like getting ready to load it up. I guess we kind of mentioned that. Say any team that looks, any of those Ivy teams look like they're going to get left out, you think have an argument?
I think Penn and Cornell do. But I like your argument. You kind of won me over. Just that Penn's got a bigger case because they beat Cornell twice. So it's hard for me to make a case for the Big Red, even though I think they have a team that I wouldn't want to face and is definitely maybe has the potential to get in there. But Penn's probably got a better on the on the numbers case. But before we went live, I thought I was like, if Virginia and Penn State ended up not making it and they gave it to Penn Cornell, I don't know if that would fair would be the right word, but I could see that. But I could see somehow a second Ivy team getting in there. We'll get essentially know in a few minutes. But I think one of them could find their way in.
I think it's got to be Penn. That's the argument. They beat Cornell twice. They have a top 5 win that Penn State doesn't have. But I don't know. I just don't. Once you get past that, I think Penn State's kind of got the edge, and they're ahead in the RPI. I don't feel like they're going to make a big jump leap kind of there. And they valued Penn State much higher all season long. That's my kind of guess. As far as Quentin go with the buzz for the selection show. Adam mentioned in the chat that Clark seems crestfallen again. I feel like he looks like that every year.
What do you say? I didn't hear that one.
Oh, Adam said the chat that Clark looks crestfallen again. And I was like, I feel like he looks like that every year, to be honest with you.
It's 2022 PTSD.
Yeah, that one definitely for sure. But I feel like he kind of has that expression on his face most years. They're kind of running down all the different AQ conference championship victories. Levi Anderson, man, 7 goals and 2 assists for St. Joe's. My God.
Mm-hmm. He just took over.
Yeah, spectacular performance. The play-in game definitely, with Towson being as strong as they were. Last year, Delaware again in that play-in game gave it some, the 1 seed matchup, some real juice, and of course that game wound up being very good. This year, Albany, Sacred Heart. You never know. I mean, a 1 seed is never lost in the first round. It does feel like that's about as close to a sort of lock for a first round game that you can possibly get. they have John Basti gave a great interview. They're playing right now for Sacred Heart. But yeah, just waiting for it to happen. Once again, if you can, throw us a like and subscribe for all of us who are in here. We've got a lot of people. Good house tonight. So thank you for joining us. There's Sacred Heart first time in the tournament.
Yeah.
Ever in school history. So shout out Pioneers, indeed.
Yeah.
Apparently we are quite ahead of the broadcast, it looks like, potentially. So I'll try not to spoil too much. I love how they air this thing at 9:30 and then we still have to have like dead air with
Yeah.
I don't, not knocking the guys, but it's like, if we're gonna wait this long, I feel like we can kind of, get to it.
Here we go. All right. Yeah, we got about 15 seconds on the TV.
All right, yeah, I think you're a little ahead of me, Safe, and we might be a little ahead of the chat. So we're trying to give a delay. Ooh, looks like they're just running down the seeds.
Okay.
1 through 8. All right, Notre Dame is the number 1 overall seed. Big shocker there.
This is Hopkins.
Safe, you're like way ahead. Duke is 2. The 2 seed, 12-5. No surprises so far.
All right, I'll be quiet. We're good. We're good, Blue Jay Nation. We did it.
So it looks like, I'm assuming this means, based on Safe's reaction, Johns Hopkins is the 3 seed. Wow. All right, then. So this makes things potentially interesting.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Very interesting. I'm fascinated to see how they kind of finagle these matchups then, with Hopkins being the 3 seed. Syracuse is the 4 as expected after once Hopkins being the... of course, and we got to take a break. The Blue Jay fans are very excited about them getting the 3 seed.
Let's go, Jake.
All right, here we go. The 5 seed will be, I assume this has got to be Virginia right here. Oh, Denver. Wow.
Jake, it may happen. Cavs on the road? Oh, no.
Are they just, all right. Save your... I thought so Hopkins, Virginia, going to be the quarter. I don't like that. I don't. They could have done anything other than this. I would have been fine with it. Not putting those ACC teams in a quarterfinal. Is just I don't love that. All right, 7th seed. I believe this is going to be Maryland, but we will see how it pans out here. Yes, it is. So Maryland gets the 7th seed.
We almost had it all, Jake. We almost had it all.
So yeah, Safe. I mean, Georgetown is the 8. All right.
That was it. We almost had. If Princeton was the 8, Jake, and I could go just like 20 minutes or a game, but yeah, Hopkins a 3. I'll take that.
Well, yeah, it's sort of the the kind of give and the take. Hopkins gets the 3, but they give Virginia as a possible quarterfinal instead of Denver. So you do get on the better side, the lower side of the bracket, potentially a tougher quarterfinal matchup.
Oof. All right. That's actually more stressful than I was expecting. I think that was pretty much what was expected, right? How does that match up to Mark's? Got number 1 right, number 2
Mark
right,
had he had
3 and
Maryland.
4.
He had Virginia 5, Maryland 6, Denver 7, and they went Denver 5, Virginia 6, Maryland 7.
Yeah, Hopkins
Um,
and Hughes switched. I mean, he had Hopkins at 4.
Patrick Stevens had Penn State 8. But other than that, he was on. No, he had Denver 6, Virginia 5. They were lower on Virginia. Um, Virginia, I do think, took a hit for one, I guess, kind of the lack of uh, high end wins. They only have one top 10 win, like we mentioned, and uh, they've lost 4 in a row. So, however they did it, this is not the one I wanted. I thought the best thing for the bracket would have been putting Syracuse and Virginia together. However they did that, either as Syracuse the 3, Virginia the 6, or Syracuse 4 and Virginia the 5. That would have been made for a more compelling tournament to me. But they went in the direction that they did. And I'm not saying it's indefensible. Yeah, they split all the ACC teams apart. I don't love it. But other than that, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong here. Maryland's the 7. I mean, that's going to be kind of Maryland's just in that hilariously just like a classic like late 2010s Hopkins season. They went or Notre Dame, they went 8-5, but their RPI is ridiculously high for an 8-5 team. Yeah. And they got some pretty big wins on the table. Maryland's got 3 top 10 RPI wins. I mean, that's pretty good, and a top 5 win over Syracuse. So in Georgetown, and shout out to the Hoyas, getting a home game for the 2021 there were no home games, but essentially a seed. Georgetown's been a seed 40 years running. And there is the potential for a Georgetown Notre Dame rematch in the quarterfinals. I think the Irish would be a big favorite in that one, but it is certainly very very interesting.
I thought if I was a Notre Dame fan, I would almost would rather play an ACC team. Maybe you want the Hoyas again, but I could see that being a tough match, and just the way that it's been kind of dismantling in part and or thoroughly winning if some of the closer games against the ACC teams. That was the one I was like, if Notre Dame could get caught up before Philly, I was like, maybe playing Georgetown at Hofstra. That could I don't know. That would be kind of an interesting game. The Irish are used to that environment. They had that game with Cornell, but that was an extremely close affair.
Quarterfinals. If it's going to be Hopkins Towson, I bet you, and that would mean Hopkins is going to go to Towson for or be in the Towson quarterfinal quad. So that certainly they have to play Virginia, but they basically would be playing them at home. If that happens. We are kind of looking at it as if, Syracuse got the lower seed and, had the better. Virginia hadn't looked great the last month. Now, granted, look, it's Virginia and it's the tournament. And their losses are all only to top 5 teams. But it is fair to kind of point out, they haven't won any of those. They haven't beat they beat one top 10 team. That'll be something to watch. Notre Dame is the 1 seed. I think this is the second time they've been the number 1 seed. 3 seed Hopkins highest seed I think since 2012. Yeah, since 2012. Duke top 2 seed for 4 out of the last 5 years or so. 2019, 2021, 2023 they were the 1 seed. So 4 of the last 5 kind of tournaments. Syracuse is the 4. First time they've been seeded that highly since 2017.
Mm.
Virginia, the 6, is the Cavs' lowest seed since 2018 when their first year under Lars. Denver, the 5, first time Pios have been seeded that highly since 2017. So it's definitely some kind of teams, this is Maryland's lowest seed since 2019, the year they were on the road at Towson. So certainly some lower, or kind of, certainly some kind of classic teams kind of. All right, here we go. Georgetown, Sunday, May 12th at 2:30. The Hoyas are playing Penn State. The Nittany Lions are in. So there will be no Penn, no Cornell, no Yale, no one else. It is Georgetown, Penn State at Cooper Field in D.C. It's a good game.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good, really one.
So the Nittany Lions, I mean, look, they got hit. You talk about like these conference tournament games don't matter. If Penn State had beat Michigan, they would be like the 6th seed right now. Like they took a big fall by losing that game. They would be. So like this game there were consequences for Penn State, for taking that loss the way they did. But they get in the field. First time, I think, in his team history, Penn State's been. Denver goes to Michigan, or pardon me, Michigan goes to Denver. So that is the 5 matchup. I was going to say it was the. I think first time in team history, Penn State has been in the tournament back-to-back years. So that's a big step there. Denver, Michigan. I think this is, if you're looking for an upset alert first round game. I like this matchup for Michigan. They got faced off with Justin Wheatfield to match Denver with Alex Dathakis. Denver's offense has not been. We'll see what Denver's offense has kind of been struggling of late. Michigan's defense has been playing better. There is the element of altitude you have to account for, but. Oh, Towson at Syracuse Sunday night in the Dome.
I was waiting for it. I was like,
my goodness. All right.
All right. We gotta get online.
Syracuse is gonna go to Towson if they win their quarterfinal.
Jake, when was the last time Syracuse and Towson been in the tournament? Oh. Remember that by Do you remember that? One team went for a lacrosse game. Another team was there for a fight.
One team was there for a lacrosse game. One team was there for a fight. Oh, man. That was the last time Cuse got close to the Final Four.
Oh, shit.
Wow. That's gonna be a game. Hopkins noon Eastern on. Is there something to Towson or Hopkins playing this noon game? Back to gears. Hopkins gets Lehigh, so Hopkins Cuse. It's been like these two teams are like trying to set like this wild. And Hopkins is Hopkins going to go to Hofstra? Of course they did. Man. Of course they did it. If they did that, oh my god. That'd be something. I love the way they do this. They literally just, I feel like I'm like a fight promoter. Like, can we just sell some tickets?
We're just like Dana. Oh.
All right, Virginia as the 6th seed is going to get St. Joe's. So the matchups are kind of as we expected, but the seeding is kind of all out of whack with this. Marcus said Syracuse, Denver, and Towson potentially is just Absolutely insane.
There we go. Ooh, Jake, let's go.
All right, let's see who we got. Um, I'm guessing for my Terps, this is Saturday night. Oh man, again. Did they just like copy and paste the, you know, from last year? Some of these game times. Maryland and Princeton. All right, I don't. I can live with that.
Let's go.
Um, I can live with that. Um, that works for me. It's gonna be a tough game. Uh, all right, and then Duke, uh,
Dope.
Utah. So no surprises here with this bracket. It was as expected, um, pretty much across the board. Um, I'll try and get the game times, and they put them up there. Um, yeah, Duke usually is in that Sunday afternoon spots. They put them Saturday. Interesting. I'll try and get all the game times um, up for us. Tweet out on the timeline. Uh, what is the noon game Saturday? Is that Notre Dame?
No.
What's the noon game on Saturday?
I thought that Virginia.
Might be Virginia.
Yeah, because I think Hopkins is at noon on Sunday.
Duke is the Saturday. Uh, who's in the? Denver, Michigan is the. Uh,
We got the first eye test reference.
oh, what did they? Well, I am on mute. What did they mention it for?
Carlos, like, well, it's not about the eye test. I was like, it's literally not about the eye test.
No, it's never. All these Ivy teams. I mean, win loss versus RPI top 40 is a very fascinating. I don't know what the relevance of that is. I don't. That's interesting as a reference. Yeah. Look, it was a tough year for the Ivy League. I mean, they didn't win a lot of non-conference games, and or like a lot of non-conference games against the best teams. And when that's the case, your league is going to be potentially hit when you kind of get into conference play. Also, I think the thing with the Ivy, Cornell went 5-1. Cornell lost to Penn? I think the Ivy would have been better served if one team was undefeated. If there was a clear top team, and Cornell, I think everyone felt like Cornell was the best team, but their resume did not stand out as clearly better than the other Ivy League teams. If Cornell had gone 6-0 in Ivy League play and was kind of that's when you can kind of get into that, well, the team was clearly the best, like loses and then but they can kind of take a loss. No one in the Ivy League was in position to sort of survive the potential chaos. And look, it was like the possible scenario. Like this is one of the only ways Cornell really could have missed. And then Penn, as well, Penn kind of just snuck in there sort of at the end. But it happened. You got Michigan doing it again. You had some other results elsewhere that didn't necessarily help them, like Georgetown. Uh, Denver losing in the semifinal. Like there were just all the results that would have hurt them happened, and it's tough, but I don't think it's. Like, if you ask me who should be in the tournament, Penn State, Penn, Cornell, Yale, I don't think is really a factor here. I think they made the right call.
I think so. I mean, maybe Cornell splits with Penn, so again, doubled up by them.
Yep.
That's probably big. That game against Notre Dame, they played valiantly, but maybe they get that drags them in. Now at number one, they all win against the number one RPI team, but at the end, you kind of left the door just a little bit ajar, and Michigan winning definitely like kind of messed up things for several teams, I think. So.
All right, safe. We've got Saturday. Let's talk about safe. What's your let's talk Saturday. Here are the games we got. And in the chat, you guys can shout out as well what games you're looking forward to most. Saturday we got Virginia St. Joe's at noon, Duke Utah 2:30, Denver Michigan at 5, and Maryland Princeton at 7:30. What's your which one are you most looking forward to out of these 4 games safe on Saturday?
I think Virginia St. Joe's has a potential for a lot of fireworks. Just Clockner should be a good environment. St. Joe's is gonna, it's just has the nation's longest winning streak, and it seems to be one of the hotter teams in the country. I mean, I just love the Maryland Princeton game. I think that's just two programs that follow closely. Just kind of high on the Tigers. Kind of feel like they probably feel they have something, the Atlanta shows face their debts, kind of like they kind of got a little bit that with Maryland, the way, the Final Four game and the game at Princeton, the way that Maryland was able to take care of them. I just really excited for that one just because of the 2 programs in question, and I just think it's going to be a really good one. Is Denver, Michigan Saturday, you said?
Yes, Denver, Michigan is the 5 o'clock game on Saturday. 3 o'clock Mountain Time. Body clocks.
I also think that I think third is probably right where I have it. But I'm just interested in it just because I think Michigan really could do it again and have another first round upset on paper. But just the way that they're playing. They may be one of the hotter teams. Like just right now, as we're talking about on Friday, just the team peaking right at the right moment. And then was Cuse? No, Cuse is Sunday, right?
Saturday once again. Virginia St. Joe's at noon, Duke Utah 2:30, Denver Michigan at 5, and Maryland Princeton at 7:30.
Yeah, the fourth one, just because of like Utes, happy they were able to call their way back and get into the tournament. I think maybe they could push Duke a little bit offensively. Duke should be able to kind of take care of business against Utah in the first round, but the Utes can play a brand and a style that can pose challenges for teams if you weren't expecting their kind of offensive punch. So probably fourth of my team games I'm most excited for it. But that's about it. I think those are I'm fine with that order. But I'm really
Saturday feels like it's got more juice. I mean, you got Hop Lehigh, Notre Dame versus the Albany Sacred Heart. Albany is hosting the playing game, by the way. That will be. Let me get the time. Wednesday, May 8th. They don't have a time listed. But that'll be Wednesday. Wednesday. I mean, Saturday's got the juice. I think Virginia St. Joe's could be real. I remember that. I'm kind of thinking back to that Virginia Bryant game in 2021. which was a real, Brian was really in that game um, for long stretches there. I think Virginia's defense has had some issues. Um, Gavin Ty, former Virginia Cavalier, at one point kind of face off for St. Joe's. The face off play has struggled of late, and the defense has kind of struggled. Since Matt Nunes is playing great for a while there. Now he's not. He hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been great. So I think that one's interesting. I think St. Joe's could, we saw St. Joe's against Yale. Like they just keep coming, man. And they're an experienced team. I think that one's good. Duke Utah, I think Duke's a strong favorite in that one. Denver Michigan, yeah, I'm excited for that. I think that's got the potential for to be a really kind of close game. If Michigan can keep that defensive intensity they had in the Big Ten tournament, I think they're going to be in good shape for that one. A great face-off matchup with Stathakis and Justin Wiedfeld. And then Maryland Princeton should be a great crowd in College Park. Certainly within driving distance for some Princeton fans. Maryland Princeton, they're making familiar kind of company. Second time they played in the tournament in the last 3 years. This is their goodness. It'll be a fifth matchup in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And Princeton hadn't beat Maryland yet. Like that's this has been Maryland's been sort of a kind of bar for them to clear over the last couple years. Remember, like last year when it felt like Princeton was we kind of talked about like sort of trying to win the tournament in the first game against Maryland, that kind of sent them off into a kind of a bit of a tailspin for a little bit there. The first game in this one was interesting. The first game they played this year, Princeton just got caved. One of the clearest cases you'll ever see of they lost the game at the faceoff dot. Like Luke Weirman had his best game I think of his career against Princeton. Since then, Weirman has been not. I mean, he's not been his vintage self. He's been very good, but it hasn't been kind of peak Luke Weirman. And Andrew McMeekin has gotten a lot better. If it's like for the first, if that face-off differential is a lot closer, Princeton really was in there with Maryland in that first game, on the half field, but they just could not overcome whatsoever the face-off differential. If it's like that again, I think Maryland. That's what Maryland wants. Is being able to control the possessions like that early and often. That'll be an interesting game. So we still got a lot of people here with us, folks. If you got anything want to shout out, any questions at us, any comments in the chat, feel free. We'll discuss them. So we got it all the time now. Sunday, Hop Lehigh at noon. 8 seed Georgetown versus Penn State at 2:30. Notre Dame will be playing Albany or Sacred Heart at 5, and then Syracuse Towson in the Dome at 7:30. Safe, what are you looking at there?
Syracuse Towson, just for the brand, the pod, the chat. There's going to be a lot at stake on that game. Just personally, Hopkins, Lehigh. I think that's should be interesting game. Lehigh, making the tournament first year post Cassis. It's just really interesting. As you noted, one of the best press releases ever last year. So it comes to mind. Then that
Lehigh
one.
holds the NCAA tournament in high regard, Safe.
High regard. Georgetown, Penn State, just two programs that have been at times elite. The way they have played Georgetown for the last 3-4 years, like always right there, but just haven't really made noise in the tournament. Penn State, on the other hand, 2019 Final Four, last year Final Four, with a chance to have a return trip to Philadelphia. I think there's a lot of obviously a lot on the line for both, but I could make a case for both teams. If even up have pretty decent day at the faceoff, maybe Penn State rights their ship and then has a first round upset there. But Hoyas, besides getting nipped up by Denver, they probably would be having right up there with the nation's longest win streak in St. Joe's. So they've just been playing really well, but maybe haven't been as tested as much. So I think that one could be a really fun game, but with the potential of maybe going into overtime or so. Notre Dame should be able to take care of business of either Albany or Sacred Heart, but just probably the least appealing just on paper that matchup for Sunday. But yeah, I really think the nightcap with the Syracuse Towson just in the dome. I don't think Towson really will be too. Scared's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like I think they'll be ready for the moment. Guy with Nadlin with his type of experience. You noted, Orange haven't been back since 2020. I mean, they've been back more recently than Towson, but
Syracuse
just
it really 2017, I think, is when the vibe started to turn for that program.
I was going to say, yeah, you're going in with a coach who has never been in there as a, even though the team themselves have been there in 2020. Yeah, that's with another guy on the other side who hasn't been there for a little bit, but Nadlin, almost you kind of rely. You can think of coach, who knows what to do, knows what's up when it's the third quarter and they're 8 minutes left. How that feels, where it gets tight, where this maybe we got to make this type of adjustment. Gary Gate, legend in the game and stuff like that. So not that, but the entire staff, him, March, and Odinero, they're this kind of new territory. And kind of like an old Western, Nadlin, grizzled vet comes back. Maybe a little bit of a surprise, but as a senior-led team, that maybe they think to themselves, we don't want this to end here, and if we do this here, it's something really difficult, then there's a chance of being playing at home in the quarterfinal. Like I said, that's just our dynamic, Ryan, obviously. Just
we gotta get. I'm gonna bully Ryan to be on the show this week.
We have to, maybe that's the watch. I wish it wasn't Sunday at 7:30. That would be perfect Saturday.
Oh God.
For our purposes, a Saturday, the dome. Just imagine the dome rocking on a Saturday. I really think that that could be potentially just a really exciting affair.
I think we got someone on Twitter, Locksman Jones. He said Maryland Princeton's most intriguing. One to think there's an edge somewhere, but each team matches their strengths and weaknesses. I think that's true. Yeah, it's Princeton kind of maybe weak a little bit on the face-off. Maryland very strong there. Princeton comparatively weaker on defense, but Maryland's offense has been just rough shape. Princeton offense very strong, but Maryland's defense is, I think they're going to bounce back from that Penn State game. I think, Syracuse Towson, I think that's Syracuse has been prone to these chaotic games all year. The Cornell game, the Virginia game, Maryland and Army games early in the year. The Carolina game in a way. And a young. Again, there's some experience there definitely, but there's also a lot of youth, and even in some experience in spots, newer to the tournament. It feels like I could see that one getting really crazy. I just have a feeling. I have a feeling that could get really, and Towson good at face-off, really kind of what Cuse's strengths. Cuse really great at the face-off dot. Offense is great. Towson's got Matt Constantini's been good for Towson at the face-off dot. I think Towson could put the ball in the cage. The question is, I think goalie play will be big in this matchup because Towson's going to need to score, but Towson's defense has played better. I really love the way they played in this down the stretch in the CAA. Their defense was terrific. It felt like kind of older Towson, trying to play defense. But that's not been this team's identity. This has been an offensive team, and I do think there is a decided kind of edge for Syracuse over Towson's defense. But Luke Downs can keep his kind of momentum going in the cage. And Towson can kind of keep that defensive, consistency the way they're playing. I don't know. I just got a feeling that one's going to get wild. Like, I have a feeling that one's going to be a back and forth. It's going to be a high paced game, and I do think Towson can. We kind of always look at these sort of these mid major teams, and to me, it always pays more to be better defensively because I think you need stops against these elite players. Like that's what Delaware has done well, is that they play good defense and get stops. You think back when Towson made their Final Four, it's hard to. I mean, just generally, it's hard to play if you're the underdog, you want the game to be less possessions. The more possessions, the more generally, like the less volatile the game's going to be. You're giving more chances for the better team. But Syracuse has been this sort of just very volatile team themselves. And sometimes it's boomed and sometimes it's busted. And I think Towson can kind of thrive in that. I think that's going to be a great game. Georgetown, Penn State is the best Penn State team, I believe, is a Final Four caliber team. It just, they've had injuries, they've kind of been looking at their lineup. I'm not, it's making some changes there. I'm not sure we've got it. This is another game where you kind of look at goalie play. Jack Frassian for Penn State, who did struggle a bit in Michigan, but he's going to be great, you imagine. And for Georgetown, Anderson Moore, I kind of talked about, like, really struggled in that Big East tournament until the second half against Nova, where he stepped up and made some saves. This is another one you feel like experience maybe could be a factor. A Penn State team that's got a lot of old dudes. Like, yeah, Penn State's a team of, adults. And Georgetown's got a lot of young guys. Definitely some experience. Like, definitely some, see on that. But in some key spots, Georgetown does have some younger guys on that field. On the flip side, you got Georgetown at home. That advantage. Tams has been kind of the king of these kind of halftime adjustments. I think that's be something interesting to watch against Warren. I think that is face-offs. Penn State's really struggled there this year. I could see Penn State kind of a Georgetown team that's up. Offensively they did play some of their best lacrosse this last weekend. Though granted, the competition was maybe a little easier, but I could see Penn State's defense having some, being able to kind of keep Georgetown really in check there. But I think that'll be a good one. And then I think Lehigh and Notre Dame Sacred Heart, you got two pretty heavy favorites in that one. Are there any thoughts looking at the bracket that you're thinking safe? Any kind of thoughts? Anything you found issue with? Disagreed?
No, I mean, it's a fair bracket. You quibble here or there. Any team that didn't make it, that's a little harsh to say. Yourself to blame, but yeah, there's not much of a case where someone's like, this team got robbed. Absolutely. Some teams, just didn't do enough, and you have a situation in Cornell where it's just kind of, where they say, playing certain accidents is like not one thing, but a series of things that all had to have happened for this thing to occur, and it kind of happened in Cornell. A little bit on their own issue as well. Just maybe beating Penn. Getting to the Ivy championship game, maybe that would have made a difference. Maybe not. I think that they were kind of like on the outside looking in. Once Michigan, made their run. So it's unfortunate if you're a Big Red fan, just because that's a really strong team. Kind of potentially even like a dark horse Final Four team, just the way that they played throughout the season against teams. But yeah, other than that, like a couple of quibbles here and there. Selfishly as a Hopkins fan, I'm ecstatic with a 3 seed. Having to potentially play Cavs. It's, whatever. You're going to play a good team in the quarterfinals. You should. Rarely a seeded team loses in the first round. But when you get to quarterfinals, you're playing a similarly seeded team or a team that's just been, absolutely on a scorcher. You could see something. You're going to play quality opponents. My main thing. It's like the quarterfinal. Whoever's in front of you is going to be a good team. So but yeah, I think it's just going to be really good matchups, good potential for some rivalries to renew and have the tournament aspect to it. So yeah, I think the committee did a good job, solid job with who they picked and the seedings, and yeah, can't wait for it to get started this week.
Absolutely, yeah. It it's one of those things. I think when people they kind of you look at it, a team like Cornell, and that was sort of in the field, projected in the field for a long time, and then they just kind of get dumped out late. It feels like, well, like what happened there, and but overall, I once you kind of break it down, it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And it's unfortunate again. You flip one or two of these results, Cornell's probably in. But that's sort of how. And Penn's resume is similar to Penn State, in terms at least or comparable. Maybe a better word I would say, but Penn, yeah, you have obviously this shot today, and then lost to Princeton twice in the last week of the season, or last 2 to 3 weeks of the season, I should say, and. Yeah, I think Mark says that people look at it's like if the kind of at-larges already have their the bids, that the at-larges bids are locked in, and that's not the case. Unless you lock your bid in, you're not in.
What's our line in 2022? If you're if you're an NCAA tournament team,
if you're an NCAA tournament team. Yeah, I mean it's you're always up for doubt unless you literally, and look, the ACC is I guess somewhat different in this, and that's a whole can of worms for another time. But you got your chance to lock it up, and then if you don't, who knows? But and that's how it played out. Yeah, I don't. The one thing, Syracuse. Towson going to Cuse is, I mean, it was the case, the 3 seed would go to, that's what we kind of looked at, the 3 seed's going to get, whoever's the 3 seed was going to get the Patriot League team, the champion. That's what we thought. With that said, it felt like just so easy to send Hopkins to Towson. But I don't, or Towson, Towson to Hopkins, I think that's, I might say Hopkins to Towson to Hopkins. But overall, I don't think that's like a insane thing or anything, and I think even the seeds, I mean, like Hopkins, the committee, I think you kind of look at, they seem to maybe value overall quality of maybe top 20 wins. Hopkins had 6 top 20 wins, and Syracuse had 3. Now Syracuse's 3 were a hell of a 3. But Towson had the more kind of comprehensive, win profile. Same with Denver over Virginia. Virginia, I think, did in this case get, seeded 6. I think that's fair. That's kind of where they should. I think you even could make an argument for Maryland being ahead of Virginia. But in that case, they went with the head-to-head, and that's fair. But certainly Virginia's win profile did not represent that of a top 5 team in the bracket. Denver, I think, earned the 5, and then Georgetown, Penn State, say for the last spot, the last seed. I mean, either way, they were going to play each other. But what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I kind of was fine with Georgetown getting it. Like, I think that they looked at they were the only team that beat Notre Dame. I think they probably gave a little bit of that, like just the way Penn State kind of, faltered at the end against Michigan. Never really is able to take advantage of certain opportunities. They had those. Remember those back-to-back 1-goal losses to Hopkins and Maryland. I felt like they just didn't. They just left what would have been like a potential even top 4 seed kind of slipped through their hand towards the final weeks of the season. I was fine with Georgetown getting the home. I thought You didn't like do enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're like a Penn State, similar to like Cornell, like you just don't put a lot there, but just one more thing that you didn't do, and that's why you're in the position you're in. Like you're on the road if you're Penn State, or you're not playing if you're Cornell.
Yeah, David Letters in the chat said some fun first round matchups: St. Joe's, Virginia, Maryland, Princeton, Syracuse, Towson should all be good. 100%, I agree. I think those are the three. I think that one, Georgetown, Penn State, those are your four, great first round kind of matchups. And the first round last year was, just a killer. There were so many great games. You hope you get that again. And I think this year it does feel like there's a chance potentially for some upsets. When you look at these two teams, I'm just, kind of looking at Georgetown and Penn State's resumes here. Penn State did finish one spot ahead in RPI. Penn State had one more top 20 win, but Georgetown had the win over Notre Dame. And that's pretty big. Penn State did kind of get hit here in terms of, like, Cornell was a top 10 win like a week ago or even a couple days ago. Yale was a top 10 win a couple days ago. Both lost. So Penn State did kind of get the short end of the stick with how the Ivy League, Michigan, Denver. Yeah, that's a great game. I think we got five, more than half of the first round matchups are really good. Penn State did get the short end of the stick with how the Ivy League turned out, but also it's like, look, again, if Penn State had won their game against Michigan, they would be seeded 6. They might be seeded 5. Like, it's not like they, they got burned. Like, whatever you want to say, like, did they take, did they go in full gas with it, potentially motivate? Like, I don't know, but they did pay the price for that one, and Georgetown got the advantage for winning their conference and beating Notre Dame at the beginning of the year. So yeah, I think that one's more than reasonable, I would say.
Yeah, I'm with you. Georgetown beat Penn, who doubled up Cornell, and that's the only other top 10 win for Penn State aside from Maryland. It's Cornell. Well, Cornell's not even top 10. Cornell's 12 now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I would say. This year it was not a lot of. I don't think a lot to talk about. But I think Chris kind of mentioned this in our DMs. I do think we should hear from the committee chair. Just every year. I think it should just be a matter of, like, principle. Like, just get the person who decided it on to explain whatever. It should be, obviously in 2022 it was like a night we'll never forget. But yeah, that's one thing I think they should do for sure. Yeah, Mark said Terry Floyd does always interview the commissioner. It's good. He apparently interviewed him in 30 minutes. So that's pretty cool. Maybe next year we'll ask the committee chair to come on safe. Live. We'll do it. We'll do it live.
First off, love your work.
Brilliant job. All right, Safe. Before we get out of here, let me put you under the gun.
All right.
Final Four. And anybody in the chat, feel free to shout out your Final Four as well. Let's get some thoughts in here, see what consensus we can come up with. I'll I'll go to you first. Got the bracket out, got the potential matchups, quarterfinals. What are you thinking for the Final Four?
All right. Notre Dame out of their quadrant. But if Georgetown can survive, the rematch against Notre Dame, that would be really fun. Princeton out of the Duke quadrant. I was going to say if Maryland could survive that one, maybe like Tillman has some magic against Dano in the quarter, but I'm going with Princeton. Michigan out of the Denver.
Michigan. Oh man.
Michigan. Because I think maybe we're gonna there's something happening in the dome on a Sunday night.
That would be wild.
And Hopkins out of the Hopkins squadron.
All right, Mark's got Michigan, Notre Dame, and Hopkins, Duke. I think Notre Dame. Yeah, I'll lock Notre Dame in there. I feel like I did the Michigan. Did I do the Michigan thing last year? No, I think I picked Duke. I feel like one of us did the Michigan thing last year.
I did.
You did.
Tyson.
John Kirkson says all ACC Final Four. It is on the table. There is that is definitely a possibility. With them, none of them matching up in the quarterfinals. I'll go Notre Dame. I will say Hopkins gets through in that. Either Virginia, maybe Virginia loses to St. Joe's. David Leathers says he's got Notre Dame, Denver, Duke, and he's got St. Joe's for a dark horse. I think Hopkins will get through that one. I think St. Joe's would be a potential. St. Joe's and Hopkins played a really good game last year, at Homewood. I'll go Hopkins gets through that one. I will say Duke gets through in there. I don't know if Maryland or Princeton will have enough, and especially if Duke brings their John says committee. End of the day, definitely just wanted that possibility. Yeah, I mean they definitely left it open for that. Big Boy Sports, he's got Notre Dame, Princeton, Denver, Hop. So we got some after Notre Dame, we definitely got some variety here, which I think kind of shows you the potential of this bracket.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Notre Dame, Hopkins, Duke, and I'll throw a wild card out here. I did it in 2017.
Let's do it.
If Towson can get a home quarterfinal against Michigan or Denver, I think that's more than on the table. It would take some big time. I mean, coming out of that, I don't know I can't recall if we ever had a team kind of come out of that 4-5 spot unseeded. I mean, we definitely probably have, but it's probably been a minute. So I'm not locking it in yet. I mean, if you want to hold me to it right now on 10/27 on Sunday, listen, give us a couple days to think about it, and we'll for our preview show on probably Wednesday night, we'll probably lock them in for sure. But I think I might lean towards Towson potentially. I think that playing at home potentially could be huge. If they could get there, they'll definitely. Big Boy Sports against his preseason prediction was Duke winning it all. They don't look the part to me. I think. Did I pick Duke to win it all? I think I might have picked Duke to win it all preseason. Safe, who did you have?
I had Penn State.
Oh, yeah, Penn State. I feel like you got to pick them to make the Final Four after that.
Well, that's what's good. For instance, my 2023. This is my redemption tour.
It's not wrong, just late.
A little early. Just a little early.
I was just early.
It's like tennis. That's all I am. I'm not. I'm Robert Pattinson coming back.
I saw the other you saw the other timeline. You were coming the other way.
We're a pincher movement. Exactly.
Inverted pincher. I think I picked Duke preseason. Yeah. I also don't know that I have that same feeling at this point in time. But I do think I do think there's potential there for an upset, certainly, in that one. I think it kind of shows you outside of, look, man, I'll say this, if Notre Dame does get upset in the quarterfinal, which I'm not saying is likely, Notre Dame is, I would say, in the time I've been watching the sport, it's safe, maybe you can speak to it. Notre Dame to me is top 3 or at worst top 5 favorite going into the tournament that I can recall. Like,
Yeah.
it's heavy. I mean, 22 Maryland's obviously they're the by the way, my frame of reference is we're talking like the last 15 years. So 2011 I think is the first tournament I watched. So I'm gonna say like in mine you got Maryland 22, Duke 14.
I was gonna say one of those Miles Jones Duke runs, like that they would.
Yeah, I think I think Notre Dame is right there with that Duke 2014 team. Remember, there was Loyola, who was the last one. Loyola won it with one loss. But I feel like there was maybe some skepticism with that Loyola team. But I would say Notre Dame is either at worst 3. Either after that Duke 20, either before, ahead of, or behind that Duke 2014 team. And then maybe you put in maybe that first Tillman Maryland team in there, the won the title, 17. I think Notre Dame is probably better than that team was, which says a lot about how good this Irish team is. But yeah, it's not out of the. But if they, and look, there's only ever been one. 2011 Syracuse. 2011 Syracuse was like, I think also went in with one loss, and was a heavy favorite. And they are the only 1 seed that's ever lost before before the Final Four. There's been other times where it's been close. Rutgers against UNC, 2021. There's probably some other ones I'm missing here, but 2019 Penn State's another one that I think was a decent favorite, at least in the top, like ones that were like. There's years where I think the number 1 is like not clearly the favorite, or at least like the year Maryland was the 1 seed in 2018, I think I want to say. Even Duke last year, just because the other quality ACC teams. Maybe Notre Dame in 2015, something like that. Like, where look, it's like they're the 1 seed, but they're not like the prohibitive favorite. Notre Dame is in the. Then there's years where the 1 seed's the prohibitive favorite, and Notre Dame is the prohibitive favorite. But yeah, like if they could get upset by Penn State or Georgetown, which is not impossible. Like I think you could give maybe a 20% chance. It could make it for like a just bonkers open Final Four.
Oh God!
Like if you somehow get Notre Dame not involved in that, you've got the most wide open Final Four I think you maybe have had in probably 2013. I would say maybe that was the Syracuse, Denver, Duke, Cornell year.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I think after that. I think yeah, once you get past Notre Dame, it is really wide open, and I think it could make for a lot of fun. And hopefully, Notre Dame is. I'm not. I think Notre Dame is in a like gets pushed. I think they will. I think look, the Notre Dame that played this weekend is going to win the tournament in a romp. But it's really hard to keep up the level of play they had this weekend for another 4 games. That's even 22 Maryland got into the dogfight on Memorial Day. So it's really hard to keep up that level of play for another 4 weeks. But yeah, I think I'm excited too. I think we've got some potential for some fireworks on our hands.
It's gonna be great, Jake. Absolutely great. Get to spend another great tournament with you, man. It's gonna be fun.
Can't wait. We will be. So we got just ahead to kind of what's coming from us in the next week. Probably Wednesday. Will be our big kind of first round preview. Hope we can get some of our pals on. Help us break them down. Then safe. What do we think about maybe Saturday night recap live?
Yeah.
First after the first round.
Does that work? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can make that happen after Maryland Princeton. I'll either be on here jubilated or looking forward to 2025. Sunday night we'll probably do taped one maybe Monday because that Sunday night game ends pretty late. But I can't rule out that if Towson wins, I won't commandeer the ship. But yeah, definitely look out for the pod Wednesday, and then Saturday we'll do a recap. Saturday night do a recap. Maybe me and Ryan can fit something in here as well. Depending on the schedule, but yeah, that's what to look out for us. I think we'll try and do live recaps pretty consistently through this. Maybe definitely at least one per round. You've got to hop on with us and join. We had a lot of people in here, just definitely the most people we've had for one of these shows we've done so far. So we thank you very much. Once again, like or subscribe if you can for us. And we will see you back out here next weekend for Safe said before we get on, this is our Christmas. Definitely we love this one, but I think the tournament, I don't know if this is our Christmas, what's the tournament?
There is Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving? Yes, perfect. Tournament's Thanksgiving. So we will see you out there for then. Stay hydrated. Probably going to be hot this week. And the action will definitely be hot next weekend. And back lunch for president. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us. And we will catch you next time. Farewell.